We are delighted that you are here, and I'm especially delighted today because this is a community practice that has grown because of questions from the neighborhood learning community and from the city's deepening community membership. And so I'm delighted because I get to step back, and the people who have said, hey, we really want to take this forward, turn it over to them. And so the city of Cochrane and the city of Kelowna have been working super hard to put this together, and I know they're really excited to have these conversations with you. So I'm going to turn it over. Can you go to the next slide? I'm going to turn it over to Amy so she can talk a little bit more about the purpose of the CLP.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy with the City of Kelowna. Myself and Tanya, we're community development coordinators here in our Strong Neighborhoods program. And like Glenda was saying, through some of the other calls and community practices we participated in the last year, we've noticed, and Cindy and Deb from the town of Cochrane have noticed that, you know, we're having some similarities in the current states of neighborhood and community associations in our communities, and we're also at similar stages of trying to figure out how to best support neighborhood and community associations. And so just as a little bit of background, the City of Kelowna currently has 9 neighborhood associations, and in Cochrane there are currently 10 community associations. In both municipalities, the associations seem to be at different stages of their nonprofit life cycle, and they all vary in level of involvement in their community and their involvement with their municipal governments. So some neighborhood and community associations, we find, you know, they're continuing to organize yearly events and activities for their neighborhoods, such as movie in the park nights or cleanup events, while maybe some neighborhood and community associations maybe focus their efforts more towards, you know, advocating against municipal plans or developments that are happening in the areas, that sort of thing. We've also noticed with our neighborhood and community associations that a lot of them seem to struggle with maintaining steam and keeping their volunteers engaged and recruiting new members. And so with a lot of these varying situations, we thought it'd be helpful to kind of, you know, see what else is happening with other municipalities. How are they working with the neighborhood and community associations in their communities, and how are they able to best support those associations. So we're hoping to learn from all of you about your experiences, what you found as work, your best practices, your challenges. Yeah. All right.
Are we gonna pass it over to Cindy for check-ins?
I think so. I think we're ready for check-ins.
So I will be Cindy today. My name is Deb Maxwell with Cochrane. I am a community liaison and programmer in neighborhood inclusion. Work closely with community associations and newcomer groups. We're just going to go around the table and do some introductions and find out who you are. So your name, where you are, and the organization you work for, the role that you do. So maybe Christina could start because she was kind of first, or if she's still on the call, I can't see, or Al. So is Christina still there?
Sure, yeah, I'm still here.
There you are. Okay,
so my name's Christine Vandenberg. I'm with City of Calgary, and I work with Calgary Neighborhoods, and I'm a research social planner. So what I do is I provide research and evaluation support to all the neighborhood partnership coordinators, and they're the city liaisons that work with community associations or social recreation groups. So social recreation groups are a little bit different. They'll have like a more kind of specific purpose. So like the Southern Alberta Pioneers, so people who are pioneers to this area. So they're a little bit more specific than the community associations.
Thank you. Al, can we hear from you now?
There we go. Sorry, just trying to unmute here. So my name is Al Fletcher. I'm the manager of neighborhood development in the city of Hamilton, and Jocelyn Strutt, who's a project manager in neighborhood development, has joined me now. Our roles basically neighborhood action strategy started back in 2012, and we've been working with neighborhoods, specific planning teams through the end of 2018. We've now expanded citywide instead of 11 focus neighborhoods. So we're engaging with all neighborhoods, organized and unorganized resident groups, individuals, and not-for-profit community organizations or not-for-profit neighborhood associations that have been created across the city. Glenda will tell you we don't have much on the go, and she'll laugh now.
Yep.
We've been supporting a lot of work throughout the city, so I look forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Al. Michael, would you like to go next?
I'm not sure you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Mike Hill, I'm part of the neighborhood team here in Victoria. We've been working on a neighborhood program now for about 3 years. Council's really decided to focus on our relationship, improving the relationship between residents and how the city works. So empowering residents, building social capital, et cetera. So that's kind of where we're at. We're a team of 3, and I believe Kimberly is also on our call today.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. Tanya, can you please go next?
Hi, I'm Tanya. I'm a community development coordinator with Amy, and we both work in the Strong Neighborhoods program here at the City of Kelowna. And our role is to simply empower and inspire residents to get involved in their neighborhood, get connected and engaged. And that's through the various programs that we offer. So we offer neighborhood grant programs, park and play, neighborhood events. We just launched our Block Connector program, and we work with neighborhood associations, which is why we're here. So nice to meet you all, and thank you for being part of the call.
Thank you. I also see Kimberly.
Hi. I work with Mike at City of Victoria, and he already did the introduction, so there we are.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I couldn't tell that from my screen. And the last I have, it says Goldham on my screen. If you can hear me and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. It's Karen Oldham, actually. But I may go by Coldham. It popped up because of the way my email address works. But I am joined with Sabrina and Natalie. All 3 of us are from London, Ontario. And we are on a team called Neighborhood Development and Support, and are working in our 4th year of our 2nd Strengthening Neighborhood Strategy, as well as several sort of operational programs like movie nights and parks and equipment lending, neighborhood safety audits, etc. So we are all about supporting resident-led activities and decision-making.
Thank you very much. Naomi, it's your turn. Can unmute yourself and introduce us to you and your community and your role.
It looks like Naomi might not have a speaker at this moment.
Okay, I just missed that part. Okay, well, welcome to the call, Naomi. And how about Julie? Julie, have you been introduced, or do you have, there you go, unmuted.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm from the city of Waterloo, and I am the neighborhood coordinator there. So part of my role, well, most of my role is to work with the neighborhood associations across the city. And we have some different types and different levels of where people are at, and my role is to support them in what they're doing, and we'll get into some of the more details of that, I'm sure, too. But I'm Julie.
Thank you, Julie. Is there anybody else on the call that hasn't had a chance to introduce themselves? I can go just while we're waiting to see if everybody's on. So I'm Deb Maxwell again in Cochrane. We have just started our neighborhood program about 1.5 years ago, and we work with community associations. We have 3 gatherings a year where they get to network and ask questions. We have Great Neighbors Week in June. We also are starting to get a block party program going. So far it hasn't been out to the community as much to use as working with community associations to have community parties. Some other things that we're trying to do is have more group events. The the community associations are partnering to put on like family dances or use each other's community halls, because a lot of the neighborhoods here don't have facilities. They're just small neighborhood groups using the parks, having just mix and mingles, and they're doing that together, which is kind of exciting. And yeah, we're just very new at it. So thank you for being on the call to share your experiences so that we can sustain and grow these community associations and neighborhoods together.
Very cool. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Glenda. I'm with the Tamarack Institute. You heard me talking earlier, but I just wanted to say I'm Glenda. I work with the Tamarack Institute as a manager of cities, and I am working out of a little town called Salmon Arm, British Columbia, and I used to work with that fabulous Kelowna team. So there we are.
Thanks, Glenda. Yes, I thought everybody did know you.
I just realized that there's a couple people on the call that I'm like, oh, I haven't actually met them yet. So I can say hello.
So yes, Glenda is responsible for bringing us all together. And thank you, helping host the call today.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay.
I don't see anybody else that I've missed if we want to move on.
Okay, so I think today we're just starting with the basics, and so we just have a couple of overarching questions that we're just wanting to put out to the group. And so the first one that we're going to discuss today is how do you define community or neighborhood associations? So really, in your community, how do community or neighborhood associations come into being? Do they need to be registered as a nonprofit? Are they just informal groups of residents? Do they have to represent a certain proportion or diversity of the neighborhood before they're considered by your municipality to be a neighborhood or a community association? And is there a current policy within your municipality for what defines neighborhood associations or community associations? Yeah, so I think from here we're going to be split into breakout groups and to discuss these questions further. And then I think we're going to the next question after that. How much time do you think? So I think we were discussing about 15 minutes to discuss this one. Glenda, correct me if I'm wrong. Perfect. Okay, thumbs up. Awesome. All right. So I think so Glenda's going to help us in splitting everyone out, and yeah, looking forward to hearing all of your experiences.
Do we want to do a quick roundtable from here? Just kind of any overarching themes that happened, or any similarities or like giant differences that you noticed?
I will have to say our chat room really only got through the first two questions. We kind of didn't get to the third one.
Oh, that happened in ours too.
Okay, good. We're just right on track.
There you go.
You're jumped all over the place. So.
Do you, Deb, or somebody from your group want to kind of give us the highlights?
I'll see if my group would like to go. Anybody in my group? All right then. We did find that there was quite a substantial difference between the size of our communities. Cochrane having 30,000 people, and London having 500,000 people, right? So there still only is 2 or 3 staff members that are actually doing the work in these groups. So some of us were in awe of the size of the community. Some of us were jealous that we have 2 or 3 people for a smaller group. And most of us did work with communities that had very formal and society status, community associations, but we're all willing to across the board work with anybody interested or communities just getting started. So even if that's 1 or 2 neighborhood groups that are just doing events, our groups all work with that diversity of people. Another thing that we did address was trying to get the diversity of the type of people in each neighborhood group. Victoria has very set boundaries. If you live within one of the boundaries, you're in that community association. Whereas here in Cochrane, our community associations are even partnering in our neighborhood groups because they don't have a facility necessarily or a very small sustainable group. So they've actually networked and shared resources and partnered. That's a couple of highlights from us.
That's great, thank you. And yeah, Amy's group.
I can definitely share the summary. So I think like Deb was saying, yeah, we had a diversity of cities and kind of how formal the associations were. So like Port St. John, not having any necessarily formal associations yet, ranging to Victoria having, yeah, again, like those like geographic boundaries, and neighborhood associations for each specific geographic boundary. Yeah, and then again, like we also discussed also the possibility with there being, kind of more informal groups starting up, based around particular developments or particular issues. And so maybe those being more, starting on Facebook or just starting more informally, but that, like with Kamloops, they're saying that they've seen sometimes that, it starts up around a particular issue or particular development, but it does actually shift eventually into that more formal association, where they're, looking at more building social capital, that sort of thing in their neighborhoods. Yeah, and so we were discussing too around policy, and so again, like it varies between each municipality. Some Victoria was looking at terms of reference or developing terms of reference for how to specifically work with neighborhood associations. And in Kamloops doesn't currently have a policy, if I understood correctly, like a city policy when it comes to neighborhood associations and what their role is, whereas the city of Kelowna currently does, but it's not necessarily being followed. Yeah, and it's out of date at this point, so we're needing to revisit that. Yeah, and it was just interesting to kind of hear, like I know, like Ben of Kamloops had mentioned that one of the ways they work with the neighborhood associations is as a conduit for information sharing, and so that was really cool that the city is able to share information potentially through the neighborhood associations if they so choose. But then also hearing, again, that the neighborhood associations have a varying level of input they give back to the city, depending on the municipality. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think that kind of sums up, without getting into too much detail, that sums up. It's quite a variety again, but great to hear the variety of what's been happening.
Great, thank you. Does somebody from the group I was in want to share the high level themes? I click on somebody because I'm like that.
I can quickly share.
Okay.
So I think it was kind of similar. So in terms of everyone was working with some more established groups and some more informal groups. Again, as other people have said, it varied in terms of like populations of our cities, and then also kind of the number of groups that we're all kind of working with. So there were some differences, and it seemed for those more established groups that we were working on, there were policies or terms of references, but then for those more informal groups, it was more on an informal basis. And then again, about representing the diversity of the neighborhood, that's something that everyone shared that they are struggling with, and recognizing that these groups are volunteer groups, and so they'll often just be willing to take anyone who's willing to contribute, and then the tension between maybe pushing them in certain areas in terms of making sure that they reach out to more diverse communities, populations in their communities, and then also with their offerings too, that they're more diverse and respond to everybody in their community.
It's great. One of the things I noticed is that we started talking about policy just super briefly at the end, and then I hear that the group that just presented also started talking about policy, and I'm just wondering if it would make sense, but as we collate all the notes, is if you have a policy, if you want to send me a link to it, then we can share out the policy so that we everybody can kind of have a look at what's happening. And so if people don't have one, they can learn from it, or if some of them need refreshing, they might be able to draw from each other. If that's something you're interested in, it would be fantastic to share that out as resources. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Deb. Can we go to the next slide, Hannah?
Thank you, Hannah. So we just wanted to know, this is our first call, and thank you for joining us. What are you hoping to gain from this call of practice? And Glenda, I believe we were hoping to have about like every 2 months a call.
Yeah.
To come back into. So yeah, just a quick discussion. What are your goals? What are you hoping to gain?
Awesome. I think just for time, I wonder if we should break up into our small groups again and chat. I will do better at time, but for 5 minutes and then come back.
Yeah, it might be more efficient. We have about 10 minutes left.
Yeah. Okay, off we go. We'll go to the same groups. That should be. We are 4 minutes from being done. Want to be respectful of the time, but I am going to turn it over to Deb. How are you going to move us through this, Deb?
What to do next time? Sorry, then maybe I should see the next slide, Hannah. Final thoughts. So my group, I had 2 people that even wanted to connect, London and Hamilton. They're close enough that they'd like to connect. So I think that's an aha moment. And I know, Glenda, that the conversation is recorded, but we couldn't hear what was in each other's breakout session groups. Will there be a way to share that maybe?
So I think there was some of us taking notes in each of the sessions. So we'll collate all our notes and then send them out. And if people want to make changes, if they're like, hey, wait, that's not quite what I said, or I feel like this is missing something. So this is going to be kind of a working group at the same time, because we'll send it out, but we do hope that you'll review it and share your policies out.
So notes or feedback comments can happen in those summaries, as well as the policies, if people wanted to attach what policy they have going forward. And we just have a few minutes left. Anything left to say from any of our group members, other than we want to thank you for joining us today. And I think we got a lot out of that session. I did so far, but any last words from anyone?
So just Al here in Hamilton, we're the ones that can connect with London, but we would also like to go to Kelowna and Victoria, Calgary and Salmon Arm, and probably our budget won't let us to do that.
We'll have a cross-Canada tour.
Yeah.
But I will say this, if you're part of the CDC membership, and because you are, and you can find a reason to go because you want to learn from them about something, then we can talk, because that's part of your membership. We might be able to help support that.
Sweet. Excellent. We'd like to fly first class.
We won't support that.
And then, Glenda, I think in your closing remarks, you can share about conferences and workshops and stuff coming up that will help us connect.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we jump into that, one of the things we really want to make sure that all of our communities of practice are useful and that they're helping people connect. And those are our main goals. Are we sharing resources? Are people learning something that they might actually be able to take with them into work? And especially for this community of practice, we really want to make sure that people are connecting and learning more about each other. So after each one of our sessions, we are going to do a quick poll. So if you can just take a minute and share your thoughts, that would be fantastic. Here we go. We've got 3 simple questions.
Nice. You gotta love a survey that's 3 questions. Thanks, Glenda.
We always ask ourselves, why are we measuring this? What are we going to do with it?
Yes, but evaluation is important.
Yes. Yep, 100%. Okay.
Thank you.
Give you another couple seconds, but here we go. Okay. I'm going to end the polling Here's the results. So I'm pretty excited that today was our first session and everybody that responded said it was useful. I'm surprised at this one that so many people thought about a concept or something that you might try, because we were just starting the conversation, so that's exciting. And everybody made a connection, which is great. Yay. Stop sharing the results. And then just a few things. One, if you haven't heard, I'm sure you have, we are coming to London for the annual Asset-Based Community Development Conference. And I am so excited, and I've been looking at the master classes and the 4 choices that we have this year around community engagement and evaluation and ABCD and neighborhood development. And I just think, oh, this is going to be an amazing time. And for those of you who are members, we're going to do a dinner with Heather and Glenda, so we can get connected, but more so that you guys can get connected and meet each other and have these conversations face to face. Next. So we have some upcoming webinars. We'll also send this out in the post email. I'm just recognizing the time, we are a little bit over, but this will be an amazing one with the Vancouver Foundation's Lydia Kemeny and Paul Bourne from Tamarack. And just really looking at how do we engage community? How do we do that well? Next slide. And this one is coming up in March. And so this was a topic that came up in our last annual ABCD conference around how do you apply ABCD in an urban Indigenous context. And so the speaker who was there has agreed to come and do a webinar kind of recapping, but also going deeper on what she presented at the conference. So this is a very exciting opportunity to look at ABCD and a decolonized approach to asset-based community development in urban environments. So that's exciting. If you know any young people, Ricky, I'm just realizing, I don't know if we got this to you, this information, but I hope we did. If you are working with any youth, we sure would love to see how they see their communities and their fears and their hopes for community through their lens, quite literally. Next. That's it. Thank you. I want to give a special shout out to Kelowna and Cochrane for hosting this. That was a brave move, so thank you. And thanks to everybody for joining and sharing. And I'm really looking forward to our next meeting, which will be in just a couple of months. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.